Hey YouTube, as promised, the follow-up video regarding my Necrotic Hammer Acolyte Lich Reaper build. I did manage to get some bosses down, pushed some corruption, tried to figure out the final pieces of the puzzle, wanted to see if the build's any fun, if it's worth investing into, and I am quite surprised by how well it performed against some of the harder bosses which I had zero experience with before, since I hadn't played the game when they were first implemented, and going in blind on most of them, I could do them deathless, just learning the ropes as I go. You do have the luxury though to avoid most of the shit that's being thrown at you, because there are those a few seconds of downtime in between the combos that could be considered the janky part of the build. But I think having the split second to manually dodge and just paying attention to all the stuff, all the telegraphs, which are pretty well presented in last Epoch, is a bonus considered how overly complex an ARPG boss mechanic can be. We've all seen that. About the gear and crafting options for that build, you could get it up and running by simply picking shit off the ground, upgrading according to your needs and according to your playstyle. So yeah, make sure to get resistances as well, but going for an early Marinus could help you boost that extra necrotic DPS. It's not a mandatory unit you want to chase, it's just an overall good DPS weapon, but it doesn't give any special mechanic that you might want to exploit. You just need to scale spell damage and necrotic damage uh, anywhere you can get them. So ideally that would mean a exalted one-hander with a lesser P4 probably prefix, damage prefix. Try to seal it and craft whatever's left. Aim for that spell damage, necro damage, and squeezing in some crit early on might help. But from a certain point onwards, scaling crit is probably the better way to increase your splat potential. So make sure to get as much crit as you can wherever you can get them, on your gloves, on the helmet as an implicit, and on the spell based offhand. Idols, you will get a lot of idols with damage about transformed and damage on low life. That's what I've been stacking, synergizing it with Dead Seal, but you could work around some cooldown recovery. I hadn't been able to find a decent amount of it on the idols. I hadn't tried to build around it, but if you could get around the 2.5 cooldown for the transplant, that would mean faster headbutting those bosses and probably more DPS overall. Next thing you might want to consider is ignoring health regen, because it's useless while in reperform. It does not apply. You want to get less degen and less drain effects from your passives, so that you don't get degen out of reperform. If you happen to run around the echo, if you happen to backtrack, or don't have anything to lich back from. So getting it is pretty efficient, and mana regen somewhere if you can squeeze it in. Um, Being able to get some mana back just to drain life and juice back up to full HP in a tight corner is helpful. There are some other variations that you could potentially try out. For example, going all physical. Personally, I found it way harder to scale Fizz on a Lich. Maybe it's just me, but I feel it more logical to go the Necrotic route. So there's that. And otherwise, we would not be a Necrotic hammer, we would just be a plain hammer. So take it as you will. But if you want to go Fizz, you could get that early, easy, unique, the Orchirian's pedals, and try for some easy scaling with it. I hadn't tried it. If you had, just let me know in the comments. Probably there is a way to scale Soul Fist with physical as well. You can convert the necrotic damage to fizz, so doing that will also give you some life back. But yeah, next is the method of sustaining your Reaper form. I know there are a lot of builds using Aura of Decay with the Decrepify node, so you get Armor Shred instead of Poison. But pushing into tougher content, I found myself not as tanky as I would want, and using Aura of Decay hasn't felt that comfortable for me, so I ditched the idea of using it stuck to Drain Life instead, and it's been doing fine for me so far. You could implement some Rip Blood into your setup. You can automate it, of course, with Transplant. It would clear better. It would feel probably more satisfying to clear with it, but against single target, I don't think it's that good. It's something that you could try, but I think that having Soul Feast is a way of getting out of mana fast and then blasting with your bonus damage on Transplant is way better for single target. Next, the offensive downside is that you do not have an easy way to get Necrotic Shred. Uh, you could get it on Dead Seal with Ward consumed, I think, but we're ignoring Ward, so Necrotic Shred on Wandering Spirits is a option, but the Wandering Spirits are what they are. They wander around. They're not as reliable as a damage source as Soul Fist is. You will have trouble clearing with them probably, unless you just want to rush and get the boss quick. But you can use Chronicle of the Damned with them for some synergy. However, despite its vaunted bossing potential, the build has a couple of defensive issues. It has failed me once or twice against the arena champions in the post 90 difficulties, especially that bleed guy that could kill me a couple of times. I then quickly learned that you have to have that ailment cleansing mod on your belt. So if you don't have it, get it. It helps a lot against those degens that could force you out of reperforming a second, and you end up running around like a headless chicken in your human form, not knowing what to do, and that's a certain death scenario. So be sure to avoid that from happening. And as far as blessings, resistances, you could get easy resistances from the early timelines, fire, lightning, and cold, I think. So you you could just save some gear slots, crafting slots from getting those on your blessings. And the one that's been super important, I think, is the one from the Reign of Dragons timeline, which can either give you crit avoidance or increased necrotic damage up to 100%, I think. So that's something you have to decide for yourself. I know that 100% necrotic damage is pretty tempting, but getting that crit avoidance is probably probably more beneficial since you cannot craft as much as crit avoidance on your gear as you would want with that setup, and surviving and sustaining yourself in a fight longer, for example in a prolonged fight, would mean that you would have the ability to blast your combo without the downtime from being in human form. There's also that option where you just swap out some of the gear and adjust the resistances according to the fight if you're having issues with the certain counter. And now finally for a quick rundown of all the passives and the skills that I'm currently using. On the base class page, you get all the self-explanatory damage, intelligence, some reduced health drain, because that helps a lot. Staying longer in reperform. Stay away from health drain per second effects. Get some necrotic damage, and then on the Lich side, you get the intelligence, the mana regen, the Leech, and the tripled at low life effect of increased damage. That one is pretty good. It synergizes well with our Dead Seal. So if you're going low life and using Dead Seal, maybe that you should fill that one out. Else is just damage, necrotic, penetration, damage, crit, where you can get again the reduced health drain, some intelligence with that pointless reduced health regen. It doesn't apply to us, so that line doesn't hinder us in any way more than we've hindered ourselves in being in reperform in the first place. um then reperform, I get all the crit, the additional necrotic damage, crit mode, the reduced health drain, some armor, and most important, the unholy dominion, because you want to have two separate movement skills. One for just reap you use for getting out of harm's way, and transplant, you save that for damage. So get that as fast as you can. Then Soul Fist is our main gun down ability, the one we use to shred packs with. First off, you get Grand Imprint. You no longer have to curse enemies, and then you cast it in a cone area in front of you. But bear in mind though, the area is not that uh, far. You could miss packs if you try to target some of those that are further away at the edge of the screen. You're just gonna waste all your mana. So wait for them to be a bit closer and then just blast them out. That is area of effect, and then these parts are just ward related. We ignore ward altogether, just don't care about that. Some damned, and then the renewed feast, the spell echo thing. Um, that one you could try either 1 point or 2 points. It depends on your preference, on your playstyle, and on your mana management. I found it better to have a 300% mana multiplier, and that means that I cast it what, twice, 3 times probably, and then I'm out of mana and I can blast with transplant. But if you don't feel comfortable getting out of mana that quick, you might just invest 1 point and get 150%. But the if it recasts 4 times, you will notice the difference. It thunderclaps like insane amount of damage, and it clears some bosses as well without even the need for transplant to come into action. So that's that about Soul Feast. You get, if you're going Fizz, you can convert it to Fizz and get some health back from it. Transplant, the important one is convert your Fizz to Necrotic and then get all the detonations. You can get all the bodies on arrival, departure. That makes, I think, 7 in total. Then you get the 20% kill threshold, which is the highest in the game, I think. So that helps a lot against the tougher bosses. And then you get out of mana damage. So if the wording is correct, I think all of your detonations, which means 7 detonations, deal that additional 90% damage, which probably equals to a lot of overall DPS. So that is what we synergize with go feast in and out of mana and low life, so that we get all the damage aligned and blast out. And bone armor, something you could not get, but I don't see anything else I could get here unless I screw my cooldowns. It's just some defensive layer that you can get if you had bought a dangerous pack or an enemy. Drain life, you use it to leech back to full HP, and in those scenarios where you backtrack and just happen to degen out of Reaper form, you want to keep some stragglers running along like a mobile blood bank. So damage, you don't need damage on it, you just need increased leech, less mana. Those necrotic explosions are useless, you don't clear with that. You can get contempt for the resistances, some slow, some fear, some duration, and that's that. There's not much else you can get on Drain Life. It is just a way of sustaining your Reaper form longer. Next is Dead Seal, and that is the one we used to get on low life. So we rush Deadlock, then we get the soul stability that disables the health drain while we're in Dead Seal. We get haste on release, and then you could get some wave of death action, mortal pulse, and get some health leached back from those death waves. But anyway, there's probably a meaningful way to get necrotic shred from that if you use the Twisted Heart of Akirus. I think you get ward when you use a necrotic spell, and then you consume that ward with Dead Seal, and I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to get a decent chunk of necrotic shred, but you could test that out. And finally, gear, synergizing low life and damage while transformed. I get some of these idols. You can probably get better than those. I'm just struggling to find some with cooldown recovery on the transplant, some with damage on low life, but that's mainly what you want to focus on. The rest is just resistances and filling out your missing parts. Gear, you can get some cooldown recovery on your helmet, some spell. You can get an implicit crit on a acolyte helmet. That offhand base, I've tested out a few of them. I think that Skull one is optimal for crit, and you can get some necrotic damage while transformed on your chest. Do mind though that this gear is subject to change, and I'm yet to find the perfect exalted ones and craft around them. Arenas, nothing too special and not mandatory at all. Just plus 14 spell necrotic damage is a big boost if you don't have anything else. Boots, just health, some crit avoidance, movement speed. I am pretty sad about that base because it's wasted on but if I happen to get the Twisted Heart and try to upgrade it, if it has any legendary potential, that is, I might I might find the courage to sacrifice that one. But in any case, that one's been giving me a lot of damage, so I'm keeping it for now. So I guess that's that about the build. I've been having a blast, literally. Been having a lot of fun pounding with that hammer, tenderizing those beefy bosses. And if you like that particular playstyle, and if you've tried it out, and you have other variations that I could potentially try, please let me know in the comments below. Feel free to give advice and comment. So I'll be Probably pushing some corruption with that one, trying to get that dreamed of exalted one-hander and see how far it can get. Until then, just keep on pounding and have fun.